You're listening to ABA One-on-One Podcast.
Hi guys, CJ here. We currently have a few positions available for relationship managers. If you would like the opportunity to work in sports marketing, this could be it. The ABA is the largest pro league in the world and partnered with the AAU, representing over 700,000 athletes around the world. Building business relationships and helping bring new audiences to every business we're working with is the goal. We're not limited to one state or region. Businesses partnering with sports is always a win-win for the community. Sound interesting? Then drop us an email and get more information at jobs@aba1on1.club, and we'll get back to you right away.
Sassy B Worldwide Productions. With over 25 years of entertainment experience, we have done it all. Celebrity appearances, red carpet events, image consultation, and branding design. Our clients range from American football stars to Hollywood celebrities and everyone in between. Want to make a splash in the entertainment industry? Then it's time to get sassy. SassyBWorldwide.com.
Hey guys, it's time for a new episode of ABA One-on-One.
Open up, yeah. Open up now. Open up. Open up, yeah. Open up. Open up now. I give a damn dog, give him a bone. Give a damn dog a bone. I give a damn dog, give him a bone. Give a damn dog a bone. I give him a bone.
Guys, welcome back to another ABA One-on-One. Today in the house we have Sydney Kings, legendary coach Bob Turner. Got Brian and Rick back with me again, and wow, let's talk basketball. I want to say welcome to Coach Bob Turner. How are you, man?
Good, CJ. Very good, and thanks for having me on.
Not a problem.
Bob,
not a problem.
good to have you, man.
Yeah, good to have you.
I always love
Bob,
talking.
in this scenario, we never let the truth stand in the way of a good story. Keep that in mind.
I'm sure Coach has a lot of good stories. Hey, Coach. Well, like we said, the first thing we like to know is, back in the day, what was your motivation? What was, the reason for you coming over here, and getting started back when things were just kind of barely moving over here in basketball back in the day?
Yeah, my collegiate career, I played at UC Santa Barbara, and I was a walk-on. And after a year, I got a part scholarship, and then my junior year, I got a full scholarship, and then my senior year, I was captain of the team. So I had kind of built myself up through the whole process. And halfway through the season, we weren't going to qualify for the NCAAs at all. So my coach decided to play some of the younger guys. So I went from like 30 minutes down to 10. And I'd busted my tail to get to where I was, and I didn't want to stop playing. So along comes a fellow who had graduated from UC Santa Barbara. He was coaching at Shoalhaven and teaching, and was looking for a big guy, actually. And my roommate was 6'10". And so they came to our apartment, had a look, and said, look, told us all about Australian basketball and Australia in general. And I said, hey, could I go too? I don't want to stop playing. He said, sure. So he made a phone call, and, back in those days, you came over for an airfare and a job. So I told everybody I was going pro in Australia. And then I arrived at Shoalhaven Basketball Stadium in front of a big tin shed, and I thought, well, what did I do? But you could see the potential of the game, and it was not a mainstream game by any means. But a couple years later, the NBL started up in 1979, and at the time I was director of coaching for the state, working for Basketball New South Wales, and so I went up to Newcastle as their player coach in the first year of the league, and the rest is kind of off we go with the NBL.
Wow.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
you look,
interesting because I too am a running gaucho or gunning gaucho now is what I think is what we're calling ourselves.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
from UCSB and kind of came out here. There's been a few of us out here from UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, well, Jerry Lee just popped through my house on the way up to Queensland 2 days ago, and
Okay.
he played with me at Santa Barbara. And Dennis Marshall came out. He played with me at Santa Barbara. So, yeah, there's been a few.
Yeah, because Scott Fisher and Connor Henry, they both played with me at Santa Barbara.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And Bruce Hannon was another one. So, okay.
I
No, it's
always
good to
reckon,
hear, man. Really good to hear.
I reckon people from schools like Santa Barbara are the best guys to come out, because once we started to recruit guys out of the bigger colleges, the North Carolinas, the Dukes, I had two players who played at a fairly big school. And the first couple of years in the NBL in Newcastle, after the game, this fellow came up to me and said, well, who's going to wash my socks and my jock? And I said, you're in Australia, mate. And he looked at me and said, you mean you don't have anybody to do that for you? I said, no, it's Australia. Now, guys, Barbara, we understood that that's what you had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
Wow.
just tell me,
Yeah.
Coach, you've done a lot here. Can you guys hear me? I'm having trouble. Like, I think I'm breaking up. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah,
No, you're good, Brian.
Okay. You've done a lot here for Australian basketball. I mean, I mean, when I first came over, you're up in Sydney, you're coaching up there, and I know you did some things with both. I think you had both teams that was up there as well. Give me your take on the changes that you've seen over the years for Australian basketball. As you said, you came out here early, and it wasn't as that high level elite NBL like it is today.
Yeah.
And what do you contribute to some of the changes that helped to change the game?
Oh, I think the NBL by far was the most important aspect, because it gave players, coaches, administrators a chance to be full-time and train and play. And, Australia has a very good natural stock of athleticism. We're very sporty, cultured as a nation. And, I always used to say that if you look at Aussie rules and cricket and a lot of the women in sport, it's because the background of the 50s and 60s, the immigration, the 70s, brought a lot of different people to these shores. And, it was a tough life back in the early days of Australia. So you had to really be self-sufficient and work your tail off. So we have a good stock of athleticism. And that's why I think we're so good at so many sports. I mean, I was involved with baseball over here for a while, and, we've got 300 kids over in America right now that are playing baseball. Now, you wouldn't know that, but when the NBL started in '79, every year a different city would crack it. Canberra, when I was in Canberra in '83, we sold out every game at a major facility. And then in '84, Brisbane hit it with Boondall, and '85, Adelaide hit it. '86, Perth started to get going. And then in '89, the Kings in Sydney kind of rounded out, the growth of the game. And so now, when the Kings moved to the Entertainment Center in 1990, all the corporates and the media attention of that move made people stop and say, well, geez, what's going on with this game called basketball? And when I first came to Sydney in '89, people would say to me, oh, we don't play basketball in Australia. And I'd say, well, God, go to Melbourne, go to Perth, go to Adelaide, go to Canberra, go to Brisbane. It's huge.
Yeah.
Now, when the Kings hit,
yeah.
We moved to the Entertainment Center, all of a sudden the media, Channel 7 was covering the games back in the early days that I was in Sydney. And then Channel 10 came along in '92, and they said, we're going to do every game live Friday and Saturday nights. And, we believe this is, going to go great guns. Now, one of the negatives of that is when Mike Wroblewski was with the Kings and me, we were happy to be everybody's second favorite team, second favorite sport. We weren't trying to take on the big boys of Aussie rules and rugby league and cricket. So the launch of the '92 season, Mel Speed, who was chairman at the time, gave his speech and said by the year 2000, basketball will be the number one sport in Australia. And I thought that's not the thing to say, because the big boys got annoyed and started to take us on.
Yeah.
Whereas before we were kind of just growing. And then through the 90s, towards the end of the 90s, I think we just got cocky as a sport and thought everything was going to be good. Everybody wanted to be full-time, get paid more, and people started to go broke and, went into a spiral for 15, 20 years until Larry came along and said, okay, let's revive it and get it going again.
Awesome.
Every year it was every year someone went broke, and it was a bad publicity for the game, even though internationally, we were up there with the Boomers and the Opals and junior teams and wheelchair basketball. I mean, we're very good at all elements, but if the NBL is sick, it's the game is sick.
Yeah, well, did you think back in the day that with those great imports that we were getting in here in Sydney, like Trimmingham and Dwayne Mclean and I forgot the other guy, number 21, used to play pretty big all the time. Did you think getting those guys in was actually going to change basketball? Me and Dwayne, pretty good friends, and I remember back in the day when he got a shoe deal, and and they had him on TV all the time, and I'm thinking, oh wow, this might, I used to tease him. I go, you're going to be the Michael Jordan of Australia, and it went up, and then everything changed again.
Well, when Dwayne came to town in '92, I think in '91, halfway through the '91 season, you could tell this guy could play. He could flat out play. And all you had to do is get him the ball and clear it out. And if you didn't double him, he'd score. If you did double him, he'd hit Damian Keough sitting out there on the 3-point line, who could pop and shoot. If you had the ball on the floor, he'd struggle, but just stand there and catch and shoot, he was pretty tough. So all of a sudden, Dwayne started to, we sold that every game in '91 at the Entertainment Center. And then we had Coca-Cola as our title sponsor. So we were the Sydney Coca-Cola Kings.
Yep.
And we convinced them to use Dwayne in a commercial. Then McDonald's, who was very tight with Coke, said, yeah, we'll do the same. So they did a commercial with Dwayne, and Reebok was our shoe sponsor. So we organized to have his own shoe. And, the goal was to make him the Michael Jordan of Australian basketball. And he was well on track. And then, the wheels kind of fell off in the '93 season, and he struggled. And so I let him go after the '93 season. But, the key is not so much the core of the team, the Keoughs, the Morrisseys, the Daltons, the guys that were there year in and year out. You'd supplement them with Steve Carfino to Dwayne Mclean. And then when Dwayne left, I found Leon Trimmingham. He was playing at a pickup game in Des Moines, Iowa, with a guy named David Atkins, who was a big agent. He was a coach out here, but he became an agent. And I was there to look at another guy named Mario Donaldson. And I was watching Mario go up and down. And I thought, but who's this guy? He every time he got the ball, he dunked it. And unbelievable athlete, great guy, real small college guy. And had just graduated from college. So I said, you want to come to Australia? He said, yeah, that'd be great. Wow. And he was an instant hit and made people, the whole idea was you didn't want people dwelling on why I got rid of Dwayne Mclean or let him go. But, all of a sudden Leon comes in and off we go again, Wow. So the key was to have a guy like that could fill a hole of what you did not have in your local content, because you only had 2 Americans back then. And so, we really worked hard to make sure that we always had a very feature guy that could, if Dwayne didn't get 20 and 8 or 9 and 5 assists, there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And he knew he could do that every game.
Wow.
They're the ones that sell the tickets.
Absolutely. And you look at some of the guys that, I would argue that Dwayne Mclean could play with anybody in today's world, and all of a sudden we're paying a lot more money for the same kind of player. And it makes it very tough for the administrations and the ownership group to survive, because, you can only sell so many tickets, and we don't rely on TV income, and sponsors are becoming harder and harder. So it's, and it's more competitive. I mean, in this city alone, in Sydney, there's probably 50 professional sports teams, all competing for the media, the corporate, and the fan.
What's
base.
the population of Sydney?
It's about 5 million.
Yeah.
Wow, really? I didn't
So,
know it was that big.
You take LA's got, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 pro teams. You got a lot of colleges and stuff, but
Yeah.
New York, but here we have Aussie rules, rugby league, rugby union, soccer, football, netball, basketball, hockey, you name it.
Yeah.
And everybody's in the league, and everybody wants to get paid. And you go, well, I don't know how you do that.
That makes it tough. That makes it really.
I mean,
But
I brought the Kings back like 10
Sorry.
years ago. I put a team in Singapore to play in the Australian League, the NBL, called the Singapore Slingers. This was back in 2006, and the league at the time couldn't really help us. We were giving them an international exposure, but I was paying all the airfares of all the teams coming in, the referees, et cetera, and it just in 2008, the Kings had died financially, and the Brisbane Bullets died with Eddie Groves going under. So we took the opportunity to pull out of the NBL, but we set up the ASEAN Basketball League with my chairman, a guy named Tony Fernandez, who owns Air Asia. And, he was like the Richard Branson of Asia, so he helped us set up a league. And that league is now still going, and the Slingers are still playing in that. But when I came back to Sydney in 2010, there was no Sydney Kings, and you can't have a league without a team in Sydney. So
Exactly.
I went and found a bunch of guys to throw some money in, and we brought the Kings back. But I was looking at some of the salaries of players and thinking to myself, how do you sustain this? Because it's, you can only sell so many tickets, and you can only get so many sponsors.
Yeah, without TV, I know it's a smaller scale over there, but without TV here in the United States, these astronomical salaries these guys are getting, wouldn't be happening. So,
No.
that's a separate thing altogether, as far as the economy is concerned. But it's amazing.
I mean, you look at the last few weeks. I mean, you got Major League Baseball, NBA, and NFL all playing, to no fans, but guys are still getting paid because the TV money is so good that it pays all the bills. Whereas over here, Aussie rules, rugby league, cricket, those 3 sports in particular take up all the revenue that TV has to spend, or all the money to spend. So the rest of us just kind of beg, borrow, steal, pay to put it on, and that doesn't help, pay the bills. And then of course the corporate sector. When I left the Kings in 1995, because I was doing the marketing as well as coaching, a lot of the marketing anyway, and we had 153 companies sponsoring us, generating like $3.5 million a year.
Wow.
To do that today, the competition is so strong. It's really tough to duplicate that anymore. And if you don't have television, then it's gate and sponsors, and that's your only revenue base. So that's why it's very tough for teams to survive.
Do you think that because when I first came out here and I was playing with the Geelong Supercats, and I remember just being here in Melbourne, that basketball was huge. I mean, it was absolutely huge. You know, you had your card, you even had your basketball card shops popping up everywhere. You know, everywhere you look, kids were wearing Michael Jordan jerseys and Shaquille O'Neal jerseys, and Penny Hardaway, and it was just it was an insane time at that time period in the early '90s, and I know a decision was made. Like I'm good friends with Ben Amarfio, who was the NBA marketing manager at that time. And I understand a decision was made by Basketball Australia. And I'm just going back to your point where it was a thing that, you know, we kind of got ahead of ourselves and we got a little bit cocky. And a decision was made to kind of break those ties with, I guess, the NBA at that time. And we kind of went it alone. And that's when we kind of went off that, you know, that local television channel. I think when I was playing, it was Channel 10, or it could have been Channel 7 at that time that was carrying the games. And, you know, you had your inside stuff every week, and it was huge. And with that, do you think that decision at that time really changed the course of how the popularity and the foundation for being a sustained sport that really is one of the premier sports of this country? Do you think that influenced how it is today with sponsorship and television rights and things of that nature?
I think it had that, and also the move to try and play in summer to try and get away from AFL. Basically, the teams from West Australia, South Australia, and Victoria said, we don't want to compete with AFL, so we'll move to summer. Now, you know, if you go back on, because I know Ben fairly well, and when you look at the NBA in 1995, the NBA did $100 million worth of merchandise in Australia.
Yeah.
Now, if you put that in comparison, I used to use this stat all the time. The AFL, which was national, played in every state for 30 weeks of the year. They did something like 40 million in merchandise. So the NBA was everywhere, and then we were using that as a catalyst. Everybody, Michael Jordan was like, what he should be all around the world. He was just huge, and then they decided, no, we're going to move to summer. And I remember in 2000 when I bought the Kings with a lot of other people's money. It wasn't my money, but we bought the Kings from Mike Wroblewski, the chairman, and we were playing at the Olympic Stadium in Homebush. Now in January, when it's 35 degrees outside, and you want to get people to go to Homebush to watch a game of basketball, in the middle of January, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because it's not a summer game. It's a winter game. Like you go in. When I was in Canberra, the reason we became so big so quick is you could go to a Raiders game, a rugby league game, on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and they were playing Parramatta. You might get 15,000 people. But on a typical Sunday in Canberra in the winter, it's minus whatever, and you get 4,000 people. Now we would say, hey, we got the heaters on, we got the seats warm, you'll have a great night for 2 hours. It doesn't matter what it is outside, inside's fine. And we sold that every game for 4 years straight, with 4,500, 5,000 people. So you have that advantage because it was built as a winter game, not a summer game. So I believe that's really been a thorn. Then also I think we got to new owners, and a lot of guys who were box holders, fans of the game, decided, hey, I like this, I'm going to buy it. And so these new owners came in and started buying teams without any knowledge of the sport or how the sport got to where it was, and they expected it to just stay and maintain itself, and it wasn't sustainable. So all of a sudden, owners started outbid each other for players. Agents came in and they said, this guy is now worth 400 grand, 300 grand, and I'm thinking he's worth 80 grand because that's all we can afford. And people started going broke. So I think we took our eye off the ball. Plus, during the Kings days, when it was really flying, we were we were very community based, you know, and all the teams were doing the same.
Yeah.
We were doing 500
Yeah.
schools a year. We were out there
I remember.
talking to people, running camp. I mean, Brian, you would have been running camps for free and, you know, helping
Yeah,
grow the
exactly.
game. And then all of a
Oh, yeah.
sudden, I had an agent come to me and said, my player is not going to do schools anymore because he's professional. And I said, what do you mean? And you know how we're paying? We're paying him because we're going to schools and we're promoting ourselves. Now, if you want him to do that, you're going to have to pay him separately.
Wow.
So basketball around the country stopped doing what we were doing so well. All the other big boys like Ozzie Rules said, what is basketball doing to get these crowds? You know, what are they doing? They're going to schools. So they employ people to go to
Yeah.
schools. And so we stopped doing what made us. They started doing it, and it takes a long time to catch up again, you know.
Wow. Wow.
That-
Hey, Coach, real
that
quick,
is
though.
a great point.
Yeah, real quick, guys, before we get out, we got probably about 8 minutes up here. But Coach, I did want you to speak on. I looked up. I was looking you up the other day, and it's so weird because, like I said, I've known you so long. But what's this Hall of Fame thing? I saw you. I saw some Hall of Fame thing on you. What's that about?
Great lead in, CJ.
Well, back in 2000, they inducted me into the Hall of Fame for, you know, coaching and marketing and
cool.
in some ways changing the direction. So there was, you know, people like Brian Gorgian and Cal Bruton, and you know, there's a whole host of them, but they induct people every year. So for me, it was like, you know, thank you very much for recognizing, because I mean, I look at it this way. I've been here 44 years. I can honestly say I probably worked 2 years of that 44, because the rest of it, you know, they paid me to coach and have fun and be around the sport, you know. So it's, but if you're going to do it, you might as well do it well. And, you know, my first game at Shoalhaven Basketball Stadium, there might have been, you know, 50 to 100 people in the stadium. And I looked around and went, ooh, this is not good. And some guy yelled out from the stands, you know, have a go. In fact, he said, have a go, you mug. And I thought, what do you mean? What does have a go mean, you know? And I thought that's kind of been my main mantra for the last 44 years, because whatever I do, I think, well, what the heck, let's get in and have a go and make it work and see how good it can become. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, you know, you had to go.
There you go.
So that's been the fun part. And then I've been involved with, you know, lawn bowls and baseball and gymnastics and a couple of not-for-profits doing different things with kids and education. And, you know, all those things are fun to do because you can see an opportunity and get in there and have a go at trying to make it work.
Yeah.
CJ, let's ask Bob a little bit about the ABA in terms of them going through ABA going through the same issues that he's been talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We definitely are.
Yeah, I think with the ABA, because the NBL is, you know, I guess in this country, in America, you can have a lot of different levels, the G League and the ABA and the NBA, and there's room for everybody, you know. In Australia, it's a lot smaller market, a lot smaller country. So if you put a team in, you know, Hobart, Newcastle, Wollongong, Geelong, that's all doable, but then you have to afford the players, you know, the stadium rentals, the coaches, the economics of it all becomes very, very tough because it's tough at the high end rather than the medium. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So I think there's definitely, you know, one of the things I've seen in Sydney that really annoys me when I came and got involved with grassroots basketball with the West Sydney Wolves here in Sydney. If you're 18 to 24 in this country, you have actually nowhere to go.
Nowhere.
Exactly. And
nowhere.
Rob Beveridge, who was coaching Wollongong 2 years ago, I started to do some clinics and stuff with him. And he said when he had practice at Wollongong, he would get 6 to 10 players from Sydney drive down every day to train with his team, just to have somewhere to go and learn and develop.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's so true. There's nowhere for these guys to go.
And Coach, I'll tell you, that's one of the spots. We got about 3 minutes up here, but that's one of the spots that we're trying to fill with the ABA. We're right in the gym, just so you know. The gym next to the Wolves is where we are, and the Parramatta Wildcats actually became one of our top Sydney teams in our league, and we play out of there. So
right, okay.
Yeah, so we're building up there, and then Brian's doing the same thing in Melbourne. And one of the I'm keeping it short so everybody else can get in, but one of the cool things that we've kind of learned is, like you said, these guys don't have a space to go. And a few of the gyms that are getting bored with like Basketball New South Wales or Basketball Victoria are kind of working with us a little bit. So there's room in there to grow it because there's a void that's there that the NBL and some of these other leagues cannot fill.
That's exactly. I mean, there's another league in Sydney called the Sydney Basketball League, and they play in gyms and provide a more senior competition because the local associations aren't providing that to any great extent. So, there's definitely openings because, as you said earlier, I mean, Brian, as you said, the game is exceptionally strong at the grassroots level. It's exceptionally strong at the league level. And then internationally, we're right up there. We got 13 guys in the NBA, and the WNBA is always full of all our girls. So we're at every level, very strong. But it's how everybody can work together, which doesn't seem to happen because when I worked for Basketball Australia back in '96, and when I got there. For a game that's a team game, we had 8 states and territories, the NBL, WNBL, AVL, or whatever it was called at the time, and no one was working together. Yeah. And you go, hold on, everybody's fighting each other. We're not going to get anywhere unless we combine our strengths. So there is a definite need for it, definite spot for it. It's how you get to work with people that want it to happen.
Awesome. Okay, Coach. Well, look, we're going to have to wrap it up right about there. We really, really, really appreciate your time on here. And, man, I'm looking forward to you, me, and Adam actually meeting up and having a couple of talks.
That'd be great. I'm actually meeting Adam on Tuesday.
Good. I might crash that party. But we want to thank you, Coach, for being on. And, Brian, Rick, I'll let you guys say it. But, thank you for being on ABA One-on-One, Coach Pop Turner.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Coach.
My pleasure, and go Gauchos.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah.
Bob, I got a little bit of a connection with the Gauchos too. I worked their camp, worked Kobe's camp and Michael Jordan's camp in UC Santa Barbara for
you did
4 or 5 years. So I got a chance to look at from the top of the library out over the Pacific Ocean.
Good on you.
How in the world?
As Brian and I both know, it's one nice place to go to school.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
2 times I've been in the library.
All right, guys. With that, guys, we're going to get out of here. All right, guys. The best way to keep up with everything happening around here at ABA 101 is to join our monthly newsletter. Just for joining, we give you $230 worth of free gifts from our sponsors once you confirm your email address. You can unsubscribe at any time, but why would you? Just go to our website, www.aba101.club, scroll to the bottom of the page, and subscribe.
The American Basketball Association is the largest pro league in the world. Some great opportunities for team ownership are available, and the cost may surprise you. If you've ever thought about team ownership in a pro league, give us the opportunity to help make it a reality. Reach out to us for more info. For USA teams at www.abaliveaction.com. In Australia, go to www.abaleagueaustralia.com.
Well, that's going to do it for this week. Remember, you can keep up with every episode by subscribing via our website. Follow us on social media and tell your friends about us. Next week, new guests, more basketball tips, more basketball stories about the game we all love. Till then, be safe and keep your eyes on the ball.
Give him a bone.